Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to more Sonic Hacking Contest 2016 coverage with me, Sonic Yoda from SEGADriven. This is an event that's currently being hosted by Sonic Stuff Research Group and Sonic Retro. In this episode we're going to look at 3 more hacks currently available at the show, and the first one we're looking at is Sonic 1 Mania Edition, which is basically Sonic 1 but with the additional abilities from Sonic Mania, which is kind of cool. So you've got a Super Spin Dash, and you've also got the Drop Dash, which is the big thing from Sonic Mania, which is really cool actually. It's implemented perfectly in this. The only thing I'll say that I think is a little bit annoying about it is that the camera cannot keep up with Sonic initially when you hit the Drop Dash. You charge off and the camera's sort of lagging behind you, which means you do kind of charge off into things that you can't really see. You unless you know the level layouts perfectly, which if you're a seasoned Sonic player you'll be fine with. You can make a lot of errors with the Drop Dash because of that camera issue, unfortunately. But other than that, there's not really much else to say about this, to be honest with you. The Sonic Mania abilities have been implemented perfectly. I quite like the fact that they've tried to emulate the Sonic Mania sprite as well. There are some ever so slight changes to the stage layout, which I don't know how necessary they really are. They feel a bit sort of tacked on. I think if you're gonna sort of play so close to the standard stage layouts from the original Sonic, then you might as well have just left them alone. But yeah, they seem to have messed around with just certain bits for some reason. Don't know why. It seems a bit pointless to me. And there are some superficial things that they've changed, like HUD and some of the colours and things. But yeah, it's very much just Sonic 1 with some extra abilities. If you want to give this a go and muck around with the Drop Dash, then I think that's the best way to play this. Because the Drop Dash is pretty cool for doing like speed runs. Basically, it allows you to sort of gain momentum very quickly, a lot quicker than the actual Super Spin Dash. And yeah, I did find myself sort of blasted through the stage a lot faster, and that's kind of fun. I do enjoy that side of things, but yeah, there's just not enough really here to sort of talk about too much, unfortunately. This is a very simple hack, basically changing up the mechanics of the game slightly. And yeah, that's all there is to it, to be honest with you. I can't really say much else. I'd say, you know, if you want a definite recommendation, I'd say this is certainly worth mucking around with, but it isn't going to hold your attention longer than 5 minutes. Next up, we've got Sonic 1 Reverse Curse. Now, this is a gimmick hack, a very simple idea. Basically, collecting rings takes them away from your counter, and you can kill yourself, basically, that way. So yeah, you start off with 10 rings. If you collect 10 rings, on the final ring you will die. So the goal of the game is to avoid rings. So yeah, to complete the stages you basically got to be being very, very careful to not collect any rings and sort of weave in and out of any sort of ring clusters and things like that. And progress to the end. So yeah, it's a very simple concept. I think it might have been done before as well, to be honest with you. But it does work, and it certainly makes it a little bit more challenging. It's certainly something that if you're a seasoned Sonic player that you want to muck around with something that challenges you in a much better way, then this is a very simple idea that totally does that. And yeah, it was fun to mess around with initially, but there is only so much of this you can take, unfortunately. The first act I managed to clear, but the second act definitely piles on the rings a little bit more, and then it becomes incredibly more difficult to actually complete. The only thing that you can really use to help yourself in this is a shield. Basically, if you have a shield, you can collect rings with no detriment to your health whatsoever. It won't knock the shield off you if you're at low rings. So yeah, that's the only real ability that you can use to help you progress further. But yeah, it's a gimmick hack. It's made to be overly frustrating, and it's really only for people who are looking for something a lot more challenging to muck around with, especially if you're a seasoned Sonic player. But yeah, again, not the best hack in the world, but I can see what it's doing. It's got its idea down, and it's delivered it well. But it's just a really hard thing to recommend. Unfortunately, it's very much. I think it appeals to a very small demographic of Sonic fans, and again, you're not going to really play it for too long, so it's not really something I can properly recommend. And finally, we have Sonic 1 Sonic CD Edition, which basically attempts to get all the sort of Sonic CD mechanics and stage gimmicks and things like that working in Sonic 1's engine. So the first stage is Palm Tree Panic instead of Green Hill, or Palm Paradise it's called in this one. But yeah, obviously very heavily influenced by Palm Tree Panic. It's got some of the gimmicks, like the 45-degree angle walls that you roll up. And yeah, it's a cool little effort, I've got to say. I'm quite impressed with it. It would have been nice to... I think I would have preferred it if it actually just ported over Sonic CD stages wholesale, you know, instead of like this sort of half... this is like an inspired by Sonic CD hack instead of an actual like attempt to get it to work within Sonic 1's confines. But you do have teleportation gimmicks into the past and future, and the third act is a bad future. I'm not too sure if you can actually make it a good future, because I couldn't seem to activate any special stages to go and get emeralds or time stones. But yeah, this is a really cool effort, I've got to say. The thing that really lets this down though is the stage design. You're really heavily penalised if you go the bottom route, and a lot of the time I found myself falling in pits repeatedly, and it was very frustrating, especially for the first act of the goddamn game. Yeah, the stage design isn't the best, unfortunately, which is a real shame, because again, I want to like this. I love Sonic CD, it's probably my favourite game of all time, and I like the idea of retrofitting Sonic CD style stuff into the original Sonic. So yeah, all the time travelling mechanics is there, it works really well, it's nice and fast. You just literally blast into one of the posts and then you get sent off into past or the future. It plays very much like traditional Sonic. You've got your spin dash and peel out from Sonic CD. I like the custom artwork that makes it look more like Sonic CD. There's a lot going for this, but stage design really lets it down, unfortunately. You do feel like it's fighting against you instead of especially like, because it's the first act, you should be finding your flow very quickly, and there should be a nice immediacy to it. You know, you should be enjoying yourself. You shouldn't be overly challenged from the get-go, which this unfortunately does. Yeah, it's again missed opportunity. I'm saying that word a lot, unfortunately, but there are definitely a lot of areas that they can improve on this to make this a much more enjoyable experience in future builds, and it's something I want to see happen. You know, like I'm very much into the concept of this, but unfortunately the execution doesn't match up to the ideas, unfortunately. But yeah, Sonic 1 Sonic CD Edition, developed by Animemaster. I'd say definitely go and check this one out, because I think it's a really cool concept, but just be prepared for some frustrating level design.